Hey, what's up guys, conas itatu. Now, another video aimed at new players to Warframe, one that can hopefully help you choose your next Warframe or help you out a little bit at least. It is a question that gets asked a lot by new players because we have so many Warframes in the game. What should I build next? And you want to get it right because there is nothing worse than building a Warframe that you may really not like or not enjoy the playstyle of that Warframe. And remember, everything I suggest of course in this video is just my own personal opinion, it's not fact, so if you would like to leave a recommendation for new players for a frame that's easy for them to get, then by all means leave it in the comment section below. I'm going to try to keep this list aimed at frames that are easier to get for new players and earlier on in the star chart. So with that out of the way, you're new to the game and you've picked up one of the starter frames, either Excalibur, Volt or Mag. Excalibur, who is basically our balanced starter frame that's actually quite powerful, Volt, who is our speedster, and Mag, who is our shield stripping frame that feels a little weak to begin with but is incredible later on in the game once you've got several former honor and loads of the proper mods. So you've picked one of these and right now you're looking for a new frame to freshen things up a bit, or because you didn't quite like your original choice of starter frame. You can of course go on to build any of those starter frames again as your second frame if you choose. So if Excalibur was your first frame, then you can go and build Volt or Mag as your second frame simply by acquiring their blueprint. Mag's blueprint parts drop off the Sergeant boss fight on Mars, which is early enough as well, and Volt's blueprints can be acquired in the Tenno lab of your dojo. So they are two options straight away, and Excalibur's blueprints can be acquired off Ambulus on Pluto, but you may need to get a taxi by clanmates or friends to that boss fight to farm that node. Now, getting a taxi is when someone with a mission unlocked already starts that mission while you're in the group with them, effectively unlocking that mission for you because now you can play it with those guys without having to progress through all of the planets and the mission nodes to get to that one boss fight. So if you choose to taxi to missions, that is entirely up to you if you've got friends willing to do that for you. Another small tip that a lot of new players might not know because they don't play any Conclave or PvP, all three of the starter frames, Volt, Mag and Excalibur, are all available off Teshin in the relays for 60,000 Conclave rep at the rank of Typhoon. So if you find it easier or faster, then you can farm Conclave or PvP points or PvP rep to buy these frames off Teshin instead. But that's all going to depend, I guess, on whether you enjoy Warframes PvP because it is a really fast paced PvP. Now, apart from the beginner Warframes, there are other options that you can get pretty easily enough just by moving through the star chart and completing each of the missions until you get to certain boss battles. Then it's just a case of killing that boss over and over until that frame's blueprints drop. I could easily list nearly every frame in the game here because there are so many options for players and not every frame is going to suit your playstyle. However, as a new player you won't really know what to aim towards, so these are frames that I would personally advise you to aim for outside of the three beginner frames, and if I leave any out, then like I said, feel free to leave a comment in the section below with your own suggestions for new players. The frames I would aim for as a new player would be ones of high survivability. First up is the frame that everyone loves to hate and the first frame that every new player comes across and you can actively farm as a new player, and that is of course Rhino, or Crotch Rocket. He has decent survivability and when built for Roar and Stomp can be a real benefit to a squad, but please don't rely too much on his iron skin because it can lead to bad habits, and it's one of the reasons so many players don't like having a Rhino in their group, because these players will run around just soloing with iron skin thinking that they're invincible, only to end up having to be revived several times over by high level enemies just basically burning their iron skin down really quick. I would much prefer a max range Rhino Stomp in my squad than some, like I said, Lone Ranger running around thinking he's God and only to eat one too many bullets and have to be revived over and over. And remember, Roar is a buff for Rhino that should be utilised in squad play. Your squad will really thank you for it. Now play Rhino like this with regards max range Stomp and for Roar, and keep your iron skin up, and it's pretty much easy star chart missions until you can get another frame that you're after or that you're looking to get your hands on. Rhino's parts drop from the Jackal boss fight on Venus, and it is the first boss battle that new players will come up against that drops frame parts. Just rinse and repeat until you have all of the parts required to build them and enjoy Rhino. And next up is a frame that a lot of players would recommend you to get your hands on before you go Rhino, because she is probably better. She is of course Valkyr, and Valkyr is a heavily armoured frame, 600 base armour, so she is really tanky with incredible abilities like Hysteria for keeping her alive. Right now in the game, a Val Kitty is probably our best, or one of the best solo Warframes around. She melts absolutely everything when modded correctly. Her Warcry build with its augment makes her even better, and if you eventually add in your focus school of choice, which for most with Valkyr is an Ahriman, then it's pretty much easy mode missions. So if you enjoy not dying, then Valkyr is definitely a frame for you. Her blueprint parts drop from Alad V, which is a boss fight on Jupiter. Just keep killing him over and over until you have all of her components, and once she's built, have fun rolling over everything in the star chart. Right now the two frames probably best suited for making missions easy for new players would be Rhino and Valkyr, and they are relatively easy to get your hands on as well. They would be my own personal options if I was starting the game again, but there are other frames that you could choose to get your hands on either. Another two frames that can be found in the Tenno lab of your dojo are Zepho and Banshee, although a word of warning, Banshee is pretty fragile and gets killed really fast due to her kind of terrible armor values, but she is an incredible squad frame, and if you can learn how to run a Banshee, then you will be an incredible asset to any squad. If you're not in the clan, then you really should be, because the Tenno lab and most of the other dojos have a lot of content that you will be missing out on if you're not in a decent clan that actually has this stuff researched already. For Zephyr you will need to farm 600 Oxium, so that can be a big enough stumbling point for a lot of new players who don't know where to go to farm Oxium, but maybe your friends or clan members can help you out there. Zephyr is another pretty tanky frame with Turbulence active, allowing her to reduce or mitigate incoming bullet damage. She is a really fun frame to play. Now Banshee, like I said, is a bit more of a complex frame and really underused in the game at the minute. I think she's actually the least used frame on Warframe PC right now. Her Savage Silence build is a lot of fun for melee runs running with just your sword out, but like I said, you really need to be aware of the fact that she is really fragile and can die really easily. Another frame possibly worth having a look at, and I mean possibly, is Nyx. Her chaos and mind control are really useful as a new player and will give you a lot of breathing room when trying to clear out missions or rooms that might have a lot of enemies. Her blueprints drop from forward in assassination missions during an infested invasion alert, and that's why I said possibly, because she is an alert frame. You need to have these alerts active to get her parts, so keep a lookout for those alerts. Her main blueprint can be purchased in the market for credits, so that much at least is easily obtainable, and like I said, she is a fun frame. Now other frames are worth mentioning as possible second frames but may need a bit more grinding, like Wukong, whose blueprints also come from the Tenno lab in your dojo, but he requires 6 Nightthane to craft, so you would need to save up all of those from Nightthane alerts as well, but he is totally worth it and is really tanky. Some might say he's overpowered, but I won't say that in case people accuse me of trying to getting him nerfed. Or Frost, who is further on in the star chart and may also require you to get clanmates or friends to taxi you to that mission node to farm the boss that drops his parts. And the blueprints for Frost drop off of Lek Krill on Ceres, and since Frost's rework, he is one of the best defensive frames in the game. He can also be built for crowd control or as a damage dealing frame. It is of course up to you how you would like to build your Frost, whether it's crowd control, damage dealing or defense, but he has got different builds that cater to most playstyles. And I personally would really recommend Frost to any player. He is absolutely incredible right now. And because he can be built in 3 different ways or modded for 3 different styles, then it means you're not stuck to being one just particular defensive frame. But like I said, you need to get to Ceres, which is much later on in the planets and has pretty high level enemies, level 35 to 40, so he's not really a beginner frame, but he is one to aim for way down the line. Now I would love to tell you guys to run with a Chroma if you're mastery rank 5, because he is my favourite frame and my go-to frame right now, but to build him you would need components for other frames like Amber, Volt, Frost and Siren, so he's a frame worth building once you're much higher ranked and have the parts needed to build him once you've completed his quest. So out of all of those frames, I guess to summarise the whole video, because I did tend to name a few frames that are much later on, if I was to start over again as a new player, but I had the knowledge of the frames like I have now, then as a new player I would aim for a Rhino or a Siren as my second frame, simply to get me through the star chart because they are so versatile and so damn tanky. After that I would eventually aim for a Frost, a Wukong or a Siren, because as a new player you may be struggling to come to terms with the game and all of the, I guess, mechanics of it, and you're looking to survive longer in missions or make those missions a lot easier until you can farm those different frames, the caster ones. And I prefer tanky frames anyway, so this is, I guess, my own personal choice, like I said at the start. But there are definitely some incredible frames out there worth mentioning as well, and I'm sure plenty of you guys would recommend new players grab themselves a Nova, a Trinity, a Loki, a Mesa, an Atlas, and so on and so on. But I personally love, like I said, my tank frames, and they keep me alive for longer and they make those missions, I guess, as you're trying to progress through the star chart a lot easier than a caster frame would, because as a new player you're not going to have a lot of the mods that make these caster frames so damn powerful. Let me know what all of you guys, both new and veteran, would recommend as a second frame to new players in the comment section below. If you liked the video, then by all means hit that like button, subscribe for more Warframe, and as always, thanks for watching.